I'll never forget the night those words left her mouth. Words so sharp, so cold, they didn't just sting. They split something inside me that could never be put back together. We were in the living room, the lamp casting faint shadows on the walls, the silence between us thicker than air after yet another fight. She leaned back in her chair, arms crossed tight, her stare filled with the same defiance I had grown used to. And then, with a tone so steady it felt rehearsed, she looked me in the eye and said, "You don't control who I sleep with." Everything stopped. My ears rang, my chest clenched, and I sat frozen, unable to process if she had truly said what I thought I heard. Because those words weren't just cruel. They were a dagger, a deliberate wound meant to tell me I no longer mattered in her world. And in that moment, something I had buried for months, maybe years, became undeniable. This wasn't a marriage anymore. This was a battleground, and I was the only one still clinging to hope. But let me start from the beginning, because it wasn't always this way. When I first met her, she was magnetic. She had a smile that lit up every space, a laugh that carried like music, and a boldness that made me feel lucky just to stand beside her. I was a quieter man, steady and reserved, drawn to calm rather than chaos. She, with her wild spark, made me believe we could balance each other. And for a while we did. Our first year together was full of little joys: coffee in the mornings, late-night drives with the radio blasting, hours of talking about dreams that felt within reach. But slowly, something changed. The woman who once clung to my hand began pulling it away. The laughter in our home was replaced with sarcasm, with jokes that left cuts no one else could see. And then came the nights out. At first, I didn't worry. She said she needed time with her friends, and I wanted to be the kind of husband who trusted fully. But the nights out stretched into mornings, the excuses grew weaker, and deep down a whisper inside me said something was wrong. That whisper turned into a roar the night I saw her phone buzzing face down, messages flashing across the screen she snatched away before I could read. When I asked, softly, carefully, if there was someone else, she laughed. Not the laugh of someone wrongly accused, but the kind of laugh that told me my belief or disbelief no longer mattered. That was the moment I should have left. But years of shared dreams, of building a life together, don't let you walk away easily. So I stayed. I stayed as she grew colder, as our distance grew wider, as I became a ghost in my own home. And then came that night. That sentence. That unapologetic line that broke everything. "You don't control who I sleep with." She said it like a dare, chin lifted, waiting to see me crumble. But I didn't. I didn't shout, didn't cry, didn't beg. I simply stood, walked to the bedroom, packed a bag, and left. Sometimes silence is the loudest answer you can give. And as I closed that door behind me, I felt something I hadn't in years: peace. For the first time, I wasn't fighting for someone who had already let go. I wasn't gripping the shards of something broken. I was choosing myself. The divorce was quiet. No public battles, no dramatic scenes. Just paperwork, signatures, and the quiet dismantling of years. She didn't resist. If anything, she seemed relieved, as if the weight of pretending had been lifted. And though it stung to see her so unbothered, it was the final proof I needed. I had poured everything into us, and she had answered with indifference. The months after were the hardest. At first, the silence of an empty apartment was unbearable. Every corner echoed with memories I couldn't escape. But slowly, that silence became freedom. I found pieces of myself I had long abandoned. I picked up old passions, reconnected with friends, and looked in the mirror without flinching. I began to recognize the man I had once been. People sometimes ask if I regret not fighting harder, if I regret walking away without a final scene. My answer is always no. Because sometimes the greatest strength is in walking away. Sometimes refusing to engage is the only way to keep your dignity. She once told me I couldn't control who she slept with. She was right. I couldn't. But what I could do, what I did do, was decide who I allowed in my world, who I gave my heart to, who I shared my future with. That was my choice. That was my freedom. And if I've learned anything, it's this: love should never feel like a cage. It should never make you question your worth or beg for the bare minimum of respect. The night she spoke those words, I realized the door had always been open. I only needed the courage to step through. And when I finally did, I didn't just walk away from her. I walked back to myself. Because the truth is, divorce wasn't the ending of my story. It was the beginning of the life I was always meant to live.